stuff. See, that's how the world really works. Now, of course, once the world, the common people, start getting this knowledge, then that removes the middleman. Then you understand the statement that's made by Yahshua when he said, my people are destroyed by the day for lack of knowledge. And he also said, know ye the truth, and the truth will make you free. Why? Because when the people find out what the priesthood knew, they find out that the devil that they was blaming for everything is actually the priesthood. That's why these things work so good, because the demon is exactly who they never suspected and has been pulling them into the pit. And they even named their rostrum pulpit. But if you said anything against them, who would protect them? It would be the believers, who are actually being used against the very principle that they're seeking. So I want to throw that at you, and so that you can understand the nature of this. Also, for those who are researching, look at the Septuaginta, or look in your Bible, and look at Thessalonians 1 and 2, where Yahshua makes reference to them, just like the vicar principle that we're talking about right here, where he made himself, they said themselves God. They'll say, when I was yet with you, I warned you of these things, that they will claim to be God sitting on the throne of God. And this is when you understand the truth of the operations of the fiat under the blind faith, which is the Inquisition operations under the Federal Reserve System, set up by a Skull and Bones member, Woodrow Wilson selling the government, etc. That's what the fiat, faith, fiat, by declaration, you see, and have placed themselves as God. And they've been what? Running the world. And of course, then you understand, what's the book? Elders of Zion?
Oh, yeah. Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Yes. And then you understand House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session. You understand the suppression of original Article Amendment 13 with its original 20 sections, which we went over earlier. You'll understand why they lied when people tell you that George Washington was the first president when he was actually the 9th. So when you just put these things together, just those things, and we could point out many other things. The issue in the United States citizenship and expatriation, etc. The distinction between nationalization, naturalization, etc. How the Moors lost their nationality, and as a matter of fact, they got to prove that they're not. They don't even know that burden is even on them. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But nobody's informing them, so that makes them stateless. And then they're held, it's actually held against them. Because the rule of civilization is this: every man, woman, and child must confess their own, there's no option. Even the children are held responsible. And then when you look at those dynamics, the political dynamics, you can understand the pressures that's on the civilized world and them having to construct the rights of indigenous people, which is a reduplication of the Proclamation of Human Rights 1948, Rights of a Child 1959, Treaty Enforcement 1993, and then the Rights of Indigenous People with Obama just recently, and they're still running around calling themselves black people. You see, and every one of those declarations command these people to declare their nationality. And the churches and civic groups are charged to dispense this information at all costs. But really, it is documented. We can't go over everything, but we're dispensing enough to give you sort of like an envelope of information that anybody can comprehend, both the necessity of this information and the function of it, and your responsibility to yourself and the community and the greater part of the world for not being a participant. Because what they're going to do is exterminate them. But that's what they don't know. You understand? This is what makes this really dangerous. And that's why we went into King Alfred and Rex 84, which is a top secret document, but at the same time, you know they're going to kill these people off. Now, and they can blame their so-called black leaders, but they don't know that yet, if you get the point. So, and this is also why it's important for real law and history to be dispensed, because our people who don't know the real history are always pointing at the European. when it's a 50-50 thing. You know, he's not totally guilty. You know, your reverends and your marching black leaders are equally guilty because they got these degrees and have been holding it back from their own people. You understand what I'm saying to you? And then when brothers like Malcolm find out, who helps Rome murder them? Their own people. And the masses haven't charged them yet either. You understand? So from the position of the civilized world, what position does that put them in?
Civil little more twos?
Exactly. What else does it do? Can the civilized world come to the aid of these people who keep on denying their own birthright?
No.
And then allow their leaders to keep murdering brothers like Malcolm who find out the truth and don't play the game no more, then they murder them and they allow that to go unchecked? It's not a good brother. And allow that to go unchecked, which has happened, hasn't it? So look at this. Unum sanctum. And keep in mind, when they're dealing with the people, you understand where the civil little mortus has its root. It has its root in this. And so you see here, dumb diversus, D-U-M, write that down, because you're going to do this research, all of these together, because we're limited in time here. And so we have to trust that you will be responsible to do some research on your own to make yourself more competent. Also, keep in mind that the magistrates and the members of the Barristers Association are deputy knights for the popes of Rome who have been enforcing this. This is why they've been loading the prisons with our people 90%. If you'll find the prison population across the United States corporation company operation jurisdiction, 90% are brothers, sisters, Asiatics of the land. This is its root. Now, so when they have the marching, praying, paid off guys sitting around talking about racism and color, sounds good, wrong argument. You understand? For somebody who doesn't know, it appears, oh damn, they're working in our favor. And they are making them colored people, which makes them expendable. Now, on the surface, a lot of people would have a problem with what I just said if they didn't know. But the rulers all know what I've just now said. And so every one of them so-called Muslim and Christian, so-called community leader guys talking about Jesus, God, and Allah, every one of them got this information. And every one of them were charged by the international community to dispense this information. And you know what they've been saying? Oh, that's just that Noble Drew Ali Moor stuff. For a few pieces of silver that they ain't even got no silver. Down the verses. Says 1455, right? See, Romanus Pontifex. Now, remember when Obama went to Hikuta? Now, when you all type into your computer, what does Obama have to say about the Moors? And he starts talking about Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli, and then he talks about the contribution of the Moors. They'll just say Muslims. And then they talk about the recognition of the Muslim world with the United States. Then you recognize George Washington's letter that we went over earlier, the connection. United States being an appendage of the Moroccan Empire, and then you recognize all of that information being covered up now, that Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin were actually ministers plenipotentiary, that was their title, under protection of the Sultan of Morocco, sanctioned them to do business on these Moorish dominions. And now the Amity and Commerce flag, which is the stars and stripes, these people actually think is the national flag because they don't know that the Moorish flag is the national flag. And all of their leader guys know this. 90% of them being Masons themselves and got a Moorish fez in secret with the tassel pinned down. Do you see the problem that we have? Political. And then trying to educate the people that don't have references to this information, which means though people have this information, they've done more to burn the books or to hide this information and take oaths of death in their little Masonic orders and keep it for their selfish selves and prosper while their people die. And then when this information's in the public, they talk about,
it's that sovereignty stuff, it's that Moor stuff.
you know, and in secret they got this information for themselves. So you see the difficulty we have. So that means as you get this information, you must come to a level where you're competent to dispense it with intelligence and have knowledge of the reference points. Because when you're dealing with the administrators of your estate on these auction blocks, which people have been falsely calling courts, you must be competent because this man is a high priest, he already knows it. He's a Mason. Every one of them is limited 33, although there's more degrees. They're limited at 32 or 33 in the honor degree, but it's actually about 15 steps above that too. Go ahead, good brother.
What's the name of this document here?
This is Unum Sanctum. This is just a little bit of dissertation on the doctrine of discovery to give you a reference point for study. These comprise, in other words, together, they comprise the doctrine of discovery. You understand? So we have Unum Sanctum. Dom Diversus. Romanus Pontifex. So you see, the point that I'm making is that these are the things that make up the politics of the entire modern world, and particularly for all persons that you saw me read in the King Alfred in the military document, minorities, blacks, Latinos, Indians, etc. This is the war against you. This is where all of our people's economic and social problems have their root. Therefore, if you don't know what's against you, you don't have any power to counter it. If you're sitting around talking about crayons and then light skin, orange skin, green guys, and start talking like they already know you're incompetent. They're not going to tell you. You know what I mean? Which is logical because they're waging war on you. Do you understand? But they immediately recognize that you are not capable in status to even represent anything living. That's why they're listed as the dead, civil and mortus.
This is why, like, one of the most important questions in the world today is, what is your nationality? Because that defines your jurisdiction, what state you're from. They came to rob our state.
Yeah, that's again why the rights of indigenous people is such an issue. But the other problem is that it's been placed before the representatives of the planet, but they have not done their job to their own people because they know that all of these clubs will die. It's sort of like their greed and selfishness and pride, to tell the truth, threatens all those little 19,000 alphabet soup nigger marching organizations that have been raping their own people for all these centuries that these people think is real. Nation of this and nation of that, and never taught nationality. Never told these people the land is Morocco. Won't tell them what Malcolm really found out and why they really murdered him. All this kind of stuff. And these people have been giving them millions of dollars every year to their own injury. And these people got degrees in the third light. Every last one of them. All them imams, ministers, rabbis, all see, but it's sort of like by the people really not knowing this information, a lot of times when people have this information or just are talking casually, people think it's built on opinion. You know, club opinion, or your belief, your school of thought, that school of thought, that's how they think. This is universal. That's the danger. That's the danger. The danger has been that our people have been trained for so many years in their belief systems that they have been equating beliefs with knowledge. They don't go together, but they don't know that. And they don't know it's going to get them killed. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And then they keep trying to do things to, you know, solve their economic and political problems, and it never works. It can't work because they lack knowledge of what's really the problem. It's sort of like being stopped, you know, like you're driving to California, and we're going through the desert. Say we're going through Colorado area, you know, where all the mountains and stuff are. And then you say, well, I'm gonna fill up at the next gas station. Right now, I don't feel like stopping. And then you got a half a tank of gas, and you think you're gonna go 400 or 500 miles because it's good on gas. And you be in the middle of the desert and run out of gas, and then you're going out talking about, let's open the engine and see what's up. You know, do you understand gas tank? What are you looking at the engine for? You ain't got no gas. You know, it's sort of like being incompetent. You know, like your car stopped and then you go and look at the tires. You look all right to me, I don't know why they ain't running. I mean, we do these kind of things and we don't know that that's how we come across to the rest of the civilized world when we're dealing with the realities of what's injuring people, and we're sitting around talking racism, which was given to us as an argument, but is not really the issue. You know, oh, this is lighter than me and darker of color and stuff, and people of color, of Afrocentricity, of pyramid, of hotel. And they're looking at you, I wonder how much Ritalin he had this morning. You know, and they're really thinking that way. Then we want to talk, oh, they want to diss a black man. That's a dead status. They think it's an Afrocentric identity, and that stuff should have been corrected. And the rest of the civilized world can't keep waiting on us. That's why they're going to use King Alfred and Rex 84 to try to kill us all. So by the time the people wake up, they can't get their estate. Because that's the basis of all the wealth that they've been enjoying. This is again why it's also been kind of necessary for the rest of the civilized world to do this BRICS things and this Mint Nation thing to kill the T-bond, because these people are so far behind that they can't even begin to touch reality of what's really affecting them. Meanwhile, nations are collapsing while we're sitting around playing black, not knowing that we're at the middle of the whole thing, because we're the direct heirs of the world's largest estate and keep playing being somebody that we're not. You understand? And don't know that we don't know. Which makes it dangerous two ways. It's dangerous for all the other nations of the earth because their economies are going to collapse with those T-bombs. And then the Europeans are going to try to kill these people off with biological warfare and everything, which is talked about King Alfred. And they sit around trying to get a JOB that they're not going to get. And then marching and praying, don't know their insurrections, which gives them justification to kill them because they want them organs anyway. Which is what you were showing on the, on the internet. So, there's Nun versus Intercatera Divina, Romanus Pontifex, right? So Romanus Pontifex is actually a follow-up of Nun versus. So that means you need to be familiar with these things so you can understand the mindset. When you're dealing with Europeans, you don't call them racists. They're Constantinians. They're enforcing the Christian hegemony under the Roman Pontifex, under the Spanish Inquisition. And that's how you're supposed to be talking. Because if you don't, you're already declared incompetent. And they're not going to teach you, logically. Somebody in a chess game is not going to tell you, That was a dumb move. Why don't you just move that back and like this one so you can beat me? No, nothing. Come on. How come they won't tell the black man the truth?
The art of war.
It's hard war. But Susie won't be able to go to college. They won't be having 2 homes in the Poconos. You know? Now, morally, that might not be nice or fair. But politically, hey, casualty of war. And so you can't sit around being emotional. You got to look at it realistically and understand that while we made treaty with them, secretly they continued the Christian crusades. Whether you like it or not, unfair, tough, let's deal with the reality. Because until you deal with reality, you're not out of the false matrix. And if you're in that false matrix, you're going to get caught. Like some other people who claim to be somebody they're not. And as a matter of fact, if you look at King Alfred, Rex 84, Executive Order 11490, they use that as a pattern. They use it, that study, as a template. Yes. So now you have Inter Caetera. And actually, Inter Caetera is called actually Inter Caetera Divina. Now, see the Sister QV Act? That Sister QV? Now, collectively, and then you look at the Christian Black Codes, 1724, etc. So you look at all of them together, and they comprise the doctrine of discovery. So while people are sitting around arguing about Columbus discovered America, the discovery is not what they think it is. Their whole argument is totally wrong. The whole argument is wrong. The people cannot imagine to know how much they've been miseducated. Go ahead.
They said, now, what messed me up, I read that King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella kicked the Moors out of Spain in 1492. So that's what became.
Now that is what? What are you talking about?
Spanish.
See, you're talking to Inter Caetera. See? Now you understand why Michelle went to the Alhambra? When Obama went to Egypt, he cooked her, right? Now those who know law and history know this is representative of a turnaround. Because that was a primal battle that took place at the Granada, right? And it was a turning point. Remember, the wars continued, even a lot they don't tell you about, even the Battle of 1812 on Michigan, you know, as well as the Civil War. All of these are related, but the people here don't know that they're related.
Democratic Republican
The Mexican-American War.
It's a civil war.
Huh?
Civil War never ended. It's the Democratic Republican Party.
Yeah, you don't even get caught in that because that ain't even it. It is this. The Mexican-American War is the Moorish American War. The Lone Star State. The Alamo, Ala's Moors, Lone Star in Texas. And then the Christians stole Mexico, because Mexico was under Queen Khalifa. This is where you get California. All that's Mexico. Nevada. New Mexico. That's all that's Mexico. Most of part of Texas. And then the other part is Morocco. And see, the people got to know the real history to understand what's against them. If we keep on talking these color games, which is artificial, a semblance distinguished from that which is real, and they be thinking, they think they're getting deep. Oh, Ted, we people of color are Afrocentric, and they don't even know they're declared incompetent by their own mouth. And I'm not condemning them because of the passion. It is because the ignorance is inexcusable. Because these are the same people that keep claiming they know Jesus, God, Allah, Muhammad, and Jesus, and Buddha, and everything, and don't even know themselves. And the civilized world is rejecting them, and then they're accusing the civilized world of being racist, when race is the human species. They don't even know the language. And then claiming to be spiritual. It's a disgrace. But they're arrogant with the danger is that they're arrogant with the ignorance. It's not that they're just ignorant, they're arrogant with it. Then they get hostile and want to impose it on the civilized world and get rejected, and then want to accuse the civilized world of being uncivilized when they have lost their birthright. And too arrogant to read and see what the real problem is. They're always making up stuff. Say spiritually or ebonically, I can make it mean what I want it to mean. No, we do. We keep doing that simple stuff.
Why you got to use the white man's law and his
And
words?
it's bigger, and the problem is bigger than you people think it is. It's worldwide. So anyway, now the Sister QB Act of 1666. Keep in mind, that's what the trust, the double stock trust of the 14th Amendment person is based in. And you see these people getting UCCs and everything, trying to be financial statement, trying to be a due holder in course. And you can't hold crap. You see, if you really understand this, you understand the upper hand that those magistrates, administrators have when they be telling a lot of these European Sikh groups and others, when they try to talk sovereign citizen crap, and they say you can't use that constitution as a defense because you're not a party to it. Once you understand it, you've got to put it in context, which means, because what they're actually saying two things. There's two things. If you're not Moor, because the land is Morocco, you can't be a creditor because all of the wealth is built on occupation. And the Europeans can't be the creditor because they're colonists. Duh, logic. And the only basis that they can do business at North America is on the Republic's Constitution and the treaty. Article 6. And they're all bound there. So what occurred with the Europeans who are descendants of Europe occupying in North America, right? That were under protection of the treaty and the Constitution. And when they abrogated Article 1, Section 1, and started their democracy order to support their white supremacy under the code of the Christian hegemony, which is known as Sanctum, the Doctrine of Discovery, which has been giving them the benefits all of these times. So now that the middle class is being thrown under the bus, now they want to talk about the Republic and creditor and my signature is the money. Y'all got this stuff not right. Because the only creditor can be heirs to the estate. And who's the heirs? Who's the heirs?
Moors.
Not because I said so. Go to the documents we just went over. The only heirs are the Moors. Now you understand the status issue? Now, like the brother was saying, you understand the Dred Scott problem? And why that's used as a pattern all around the world for citizenship and status issue? All around the world, that is used as a pattern. As a landmark case. And it's the most important slave case ever to come before the Supreme Courts of the United States, and most of our people aren't even familiar with it. And when those who do, most of them talk about, they start talking racism, not status. See the problem? So what you have to do is make sure that your family members don't make this mistake, because they will be expendable. And of course, by not having this information, they can't even see the danger because it doesn't dawn on them. It's just like if somebody doesn't know that, say it was raining outside, right? And somebody doesn't know that that's acid rain coming from a nuclear or a neutron bomb or something like that that doesn't tear buildings up or kills all people, I don't need no umbrella because it's cool. And it's the same thing. People not knowing the real history and law don't know the danger that they're in. Because they think they got a savings account and they're going to retire or something. They're going to kill them off. But see, this is the problem that we have. The position that the European is in, he's under pressure from all sides. He's going to try to kill people off because they already know he can't hold this no more. Then China and all the Asiatic nations are joining up. And they're killing the T-bomb. This is the only reason why he hasn't done more things that he already planned to do. Because he already planned to have half these people in FEMA camps already. It just didn't, timing ain't worked out. The conditions haven't worked out. So they're doing all these false flags like Ferguson, Baltimore, killing people in the church, trying to start a riot so that they can justify martial law and get these people in camp and exterminate them. You understand? They call them fun camps. They did. Fun, what do they call them? Fun and re-education camps? What they call them? Re-education and fun camps, that's what they call them. They're going to exterminate them. You know, and of course you all know, do a little research, over 200,000 Army vets, homeless Army vets that's been around the country have disappeared. And it's over 200,000 that they admit to. Nowhere. You already know what happened to them, but and the reason, you know why. Because they've been played, and many of them are now dangerous because they've planted them with all kinds of viruses. They've experimented on them, same like they did in Tuskegee. So most of them got mental problems, so they can't, how do you say, they're not stable. So they can't like get a job and really live a life, and they're homeless, living on the bridges and stuff like that. If you notice, if you go through all your major cities, you'll notice a heavy reduction in a lot of your straggler people that you've been sitting around. If you really pay attention, they've been disappearing them. But now they're going to start going into the house population. And this is another reason why the women population is the most fastest prison population of Asiatic women. Because they're going to start killing them off too. So this is why it's important to understand the real politics. We cannot afford to be caught up in the emotions of the BS. And then people who thought they were in the middle class, going to start finding they're going to be treated just like the other people. You know, they think they're going to be special. No, they're not. They're expendable. As a matter of fact, they're more expendable than the ones that don't know because they're able to know more. See, the more, it's sort of like what the European is doing right now, he's moving out of desperation because he's losing power. Not just because we're becoming conscious, because the rest of the world is now finally turning on them, including their allies. So when people get the UCCs and they start looking at the UCCs and other issues of different people trying to sell them different kind of packages, and they start talking about, you know, creditor-debtor argument, those are only designations of airship. And so that doesn't stand on its own. You must name the air. You know how I can say, if you say president, right? Well, president who? You see, as we were talking about years, remember years ago when I did that thing in Connecticut, I did a lesson on the dangers of the UCCs. Because this is the principle I'm talking about. Because when people get a little bit of knowledge about the Federal Reserve, the transference of the gold to England and to the Vatican under the secret Treaty of Rome, which they usually don't even talk about when they talk about them stealing gold. You don't hear them talk about the secret Treaty of Rome or the Trinity of the sovereign, of the substitute sovereigns, the Interregnum. So you also want to look at this word too, get familiar with it. And all of those acts, including the thing that Woodrow Wilson did, Franklin Delano Roosevelt did, etc., all of those are interregnums. And interregnums are introductions, or what you call impositions of, or interruptions of the reign of the sovereign in one form or another, including the fiat. And so the concepts of this, in other words, once you understand this, the concepts of how it changes your mind changes what you say. And when they see that you are not familiar, they already have declared you incompetent. And your argument is already over. You know, you're already civil little more obtuse. This is, again, redundantly why it's important for people to have the concepts of the real history. Because if they don't, sometimes someplace they may walk in the future and not walk back out. Because knowledge is power, lack of knowledge is dangerous. Because remember, the major thing that the European is trying to do now is kill off the heirs before the transition finalizes. The transition is on its path. It's already on its path. They'll call it a reset. They'll call it the New World Order. They'll call it a lot of things. But what they're really trying to do is maintain their power base, or they're going to be thrown on the lower side of the pendulum, or what you would call the seesaw is going down. They're trying to maintain power. And so what they're trying to do is kill off the people before the people wake up. Do you understand? And when you study King Alfred and the biological warfare, etc., you understand the AIDS, the SARS, the MERS, all of those are laboratory. Ebola, every one of them got patents on them. And that's part of the warfare, including, you know, sterilizing young girls when they go in the hospital for stuff that has nothing to do with what they're in the hospital for, giving the children drugs, starting in the 2nd and 3rd grade, calling attention deficit disorder, and then drugging them, and already preparing them for the prisons, and also putting sterilization in the drugs, you know, and then causing bipolar. There's no down effect, Down syndrome, and a lot of other problems. It pretty much takes them out of the mix. You know, meaning that as they grow up, they're going to be problematic. They will never be able to maintain personal relationships because it will always go wrong. They go to mood swings. They're already primed to whatever drugs that are out there. You know what I mean? Their heart and liver, etc., and organs are already in a state of damage. They're already prone to diabetes and stroke and don't know it. Islam.
Were not the same poisons and effects found in the Depo shot, the birth control shot that they were giving out?
Yes, that's what it's for.
Mm.
Well, isn't it birth control?
Literally.
Well, I mean, it's like, it means kill babies. Well, make them think that kill a baby don't kill them. I mean, it's intelligence. You know, it's interesting how people really don't think. And you know where they lose? They gave up their culture to adopt Roman culture. What is their culture is? The moon governs the womb, right? The moon governs the water. We plant by the moon. Well, you're humans, you're part of this system.
But we ain't into that astrology stuff, that ain't Jesus.
That's what they start. Right? And it used to be when women knew themselves, right? 28 days, 52 minutes, 2 hours, 52 minutes, some odd seconds, the moon moves another egg out of that fallopian tube into the uterus. And the egg ain't there, she ain't getting pregnant. All they needed to do was count. So all they needed to do was count. But they don't believe in nature no more.
That's that Islam stuff, because it's crescent and the stars stuff.
Yeah, well, they start that. They do. And gave up their culture. Now we've got all these sicknesses and diseases and everything else. Giving the European power. And he's using it too, to their detriment. But anyway, so collectively, the doctrine of, when you hear the doctrine of discovery, understand all of this is involved. Also recognize that all of your municipality councils, the Privy Council, keep this in mind, Privy Council, because you need to be familiar with these things. And sometimes they have an E there sometimes. All right? Privy Council is a general designation given to all secret society meetings and say to Congress, to legislative branches in operative pseudo-governments, in Skull and Bones meetings, Knights Templar meetings, stuff like that, Adeptus meetings, all of them are Adeptus, so don't get confused about it. It matters not what organization it is, they're all adept chambers, so we're clear. They may have different names for, for their bylaws and for the public, but in secret, in fact, like say if you go, say, all right, say you're Moor Science Temple, you're adept, right? That's an adept charm. Your adept meeting would be what is known as a privy council. That means the average people are not privy to it. They're not allowed to it. You have council secret, all right? So all adepts are Gnostics. And adept means simply expert. It means that you've got a master's degree in the philosophy that you're involved in. So a reverend, pastor, an imam, a rabbi, master mason, Knights Templar, Skull and Bones, Knight of Malta, Union Guard, all of them are Gnostics. In fact, in public or in their operative orders, they may have different political agendas, but fundamental truths are universal. Do you understand? So like, say the average person, like say we're sitting here, right? And a rabbi sitting here, and a dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, and a Knight of Malta sitting here, and an imam sitting here, etc. In the public, they'd all have different opinions. In secret, they got the same knowledge. This is the key to their power. The key to their power is that the public is not privy to counsel.
What's your answer? The public is unstable.
Yes, speak loudly. That's because
The Moorish Quran says the public. The Moorish Quran says the public is unstable.
yes, but you know why? Yes, you do. It is because the public, just like for instance, like y'all came in, everybody came in at different times.
They're controlled by their people. You just said.
Yeah, but let's back up. Let's be clearer. Let's be clearer. Now, most of you are scholars to one degree or another, and most of you are conscious, or you wouldn't be here. You understand? Because it wouldn't attract you if you didn't have a level of scholarship. People who don't have scholarship wouldn't be interested in anything like this. Is again what keeps them in power, because people are not interested in facts. They're interested in beliefs, not knowing it's elixir, or what you call opiate for the masses. Beliefs are opiate for the masses. The masses think they get religion, they get dogma, and don't know the difference. The masses think they got money, they got fiat, don't know the difference. The masses think they're dealing in law, they got color law instead of jurisprudence, don't know the difference. The masses think they know history. No, they get reconstructed history. So when you talk to them, it's like talking to a wall. They actually will look at you as an enemy, even though you throw them a life raft. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You give most people this information, like you could go, like say for instance, you could visit a prison. and you could distribute some information into the prison. And half the people would reject it, talking about,
That's that Muslim stuff. That's that Moor stuff. They trying to be sovereign. They ain't Christian. They don't know what Jesus is. That's shirk.
all that kind of stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And yet it would liberate them. Do you understand? And yet if they use it, they could walk in that judge's chamber and most of them could get out of jail without a penny. But it doesn't fit their beliefs, and they would reject it. And then turn around and argue how come something's always happened to a black man because it's Christian property.
No, it ain't. That's Afrocentricity.
No, it's artificial person. It doesn't even mean human being. That's how they do.
No, it isn't.
And they'll defend the lie. And they believe the lie to be the truth. And then call the European white man, which calls him sovereign, which is really their own status, and then get mad because he act like God when they just assigned him because they can't damn read. Do you understand the problem that we have? Meanwhile, things are collapsing in the rest of the world. They're in a stage of what you call red alert. Everybody's buckling down the hatches. So if anybody's outside the gate, what happens? You know, symbolically, but we're talking real though.
No protection.
Symbolically, if you ain't on the ark,
Right.
this is why Obama did what he did too. You understand? So he put his neck on the line. And then a lot of people don't even recognize what he did. European did. Yeah. They mad at him. Do you understand? And so this is what I'm saying, good brother. We must be specific, not general, in our arguments. You know, so if you're saying creditor, creditor who? If you're saying debtor, debtor who? President, president who? Officer, well, officer who? You better prove it. Because that designation is not sufficient. Insufficient, it's colored. I mean, it's sort of like, you know how like when somebody says, in the name of the Lord type thing and think they said something deep? Right? Well, in the name, that implies there's an empty space that has to be filled up. That goes with the other half of his title. Lord who? And you know, when people can't read, they don't even recognize when they're making a mistake, which makes it dangerous because they won't be eliminated before they wake up because they're a threat. The wake up is the threat. Because when the wake up takes place, all the bonds die. See, people keep trying to capture the bonds and still killing them. You must rebut them. And you can't claim them because you didn't create them. It's, you know, it's like saying, oh, you know, Michael Jackson song, Billie Jean, man, I like that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to file copyright with UCC1 financial statements and put a copyright on it. Somebody's going to take your fee out if you're willing to go through that process, but in the challenge, guess what? You ain't winning. Did you create that? Is that you? Well, no, but see, you see, it's the straw. Is that you? Well, no, but it's mine. Mine is possessive. Is that yours? Did you create it? Well, no. See, what they did, they made this straw, and they going to my sister QV trust and stuff. And see, with the Cusick number, I'm gonna make claim on it. You get my hands on that bottomless pit account. So you're looking for a benefit? And at that point, you've sanctioned it. Do you understand? When people don't understand trust law and estate law, they get offered a remedy that actually lets him off the hook. Because they think they're going to get $5 to do this. $5. As soon as they try to sanction that straw to get a benefit, they have just eliminated any legal argument of tort in the future for reparation. Because they've sanctioned the fraud by trying to get a benefit, which they never get. Meanwhile, they have them bouncing all around getting a apostille on this birth certificate. We're going to be and file this, going to control this. I mean, it all sounds good. In basic business, it's logical. It's not illogical, the process, necessarily. But it's certainly a track.
That's it.
It is a track.
So where's that cheese? You get it out the track. Which will live
So, could you make further distinction between going through the UCC and the birth certificate nonsense versus maybe a discharge or some other type of process?
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. As long as they're in power, the only thing that you can use and get away with, this is the first thing that we got to all recognize. They're rogue. So that's number one. So being rogue, they don't observe the rules. That's the first thing you got to recognize. Do you understand? Now, so don't get confused with you doing something and that you failed. It's not exactly that. They're rogue. That's the first thing you must recognize. Also, when they acknowledge the due process, they themselves have thrown in their poker hand because it will domino. So what they must do is keep on handing you apple promises. Bite this apple. Let's look at this. Let's look at process. Let's look for those of you know history. Some of you are a little younger, but some of you who are more aware of how things have worked, right, would know. Like, say, like before you were born, they were doing what is called site drafts and HMOs. Do you understand? And they ran through that for a few years until they figured out they was going around America. They was going around America Bush, you know, filing papers. That evolved in what you call UCC process. Although UCC's is the process in all points. Site draft, all right? That's based on the discharge principle. And it's also based on creating instruments as bonds and applying them to an account and then drawing off of it, all right? This is the basis upon which them brothers and sisters were tracked that went to jail years ago in the Atlantic City area that they sometimes use against, which I told them was going to happen to them. Anyway, I won't mention names, you know, with all due respect.
I remember that they went to jail for them bonds.
Oh, yes.
What type of bonds?
On the transportation department and all that stuff. I don't want to go into it because I don't want to, because some of them they're still going through some things.
How about a case bond for the court?
No, I'm telling you this is about a case of brothers and sisters that went to jail.
I remember that.
Yeah, all right. What it's about. They made bonds. Now, I had given them some information on international law. There was some other people that I taught, some other sister that started calling herself Queen, etc. And they were making all kinds of bonds and everything. I told them not to do that. I won't say everything that took place with was less than honorable. And it was also where they got information, very intelligent people, they weren't dumb people. So don't misunderstand, don't look at them as dumb. However, some of the concepts that I'm showing you, they were not privy to. But they were heavy in other scholarship in relationship with both their so-called educational degrees from the man, as well as far as site drafts and stuff like that, they were very, very well studied. And I gave them information, book information that I didn't publish because I always put things out of sequence based on where people head is. On rights of indigenous people and how to get grants and assistance, federal grants and assistance for indigenous people The same finance that all the reverends were going to get to do their little projects where they put Reverend Jones project in, but these are federal lands. And understand that occupational governments are required by international law to put billions of notes aside for indigenous people, but they can't claim it not in proper person. And so all the reverends have been getting it, being agents of them. So all your imams and reverends, they go get these federal grants, and these people think it came from Jesus and Allah and everything, and they build these projects and they put their names on them and everything, and it's really funds that belong to the common people. It's just that they're not competent, so they can't get it. So these guys get all this credit for like they're doing something for Jesus, God, and Allah and everything, and they're really stealing finance that should go to the common people, but they won't teach these people nationality. Do you understand what I'm saying? So these people keep going talking about they're black and all this sort of stuff, and Puerto Rican and everything, and which are tags that the European put on them. It's not their bloodline, that's the tags. And when they take them tags, it puts them under Europeans' jurisdiction. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anyway, I gave them research papers on that, and I told them not to misuse it and also return it. They never returned it. They used it and they started getting all kinds of fiat and everything. They was down Atlantic City renting places. They bought Mercedes and all kinds of cars and all this kind of stuff. Yes, they did.
They got $1 million.
They ran up corn bills and cable bills all over the place.
They got $1 million.
They was doing all kind of stuff, all dirty, not nice stuff. Anyway. I warned them not to do those things. And I said, y'all need to study. You know, they would come to the round table, get information, and, you know, get fired up and go, but they weren't all with honorable intent. And so they slammed them, just like I told them that. And the same thing I said to Dr. York when he came from New York and took lesson book 14. Did 3 paragraphs and made the new Bobby and Moor that told me exactly what's going to happen to him too. Same thing. You know, because it's not based in belief. This is based in real knowledge. You can't misuse this information. It's divine.
What about a promissory note?
You understand what I'm saying to you? There's a consequence.
What about a promissory note?
Yeah, in principle, it's that too. So anyway, they went from the HMOs to site drafts. Then keeping in mind that a lot of Europeans have more knowledge than a lot of these Asiatics. So they, as they were losing, you know, their economic power, they would be enforcing these things, and they would bring information out, and they would start these little groups like white Christian sovereign and white American Christian sovereign. Then that ran through. Then white, then state sovereign. All this kind of stuff, all, you know, then UCC openly, and then UCC1 financial statement, then apostille. If you notice it, the same principle, the promise, and when one system wears out and they get a lot of finance people running all over this state to that state, this township, this capital to that capital, filing papers, taking all time from work, spending fiat and everything, trying to get their hand, and they got a whole bunch of apostille papers. They got their finance on hands and no one leaves counts yet. You know, do you understand what I'm saying to you? And then when that wears out, they're gonna give them another promise. It's running out. This is the whole point. You know, and it's like this. Now I used to say years ago when I did a lecture in Connecticut, I said, all these corporate state persons claim to be broke, right? Right? And they're receiving all these UCC1 financial statements from all these people, and they're accepting these filings, these apostilles, and they're stamping them and everything, and taking fiat from them and everything, right? Why don't they file a UCC1 financial statement and get out of debt themselves? If they're accepting all of these filings, and these people got this, and they got these people in this QB Act, why don't they file one? An intelligent person would say, it's sort of like, if everybody here keeps putting their fiat in a bank, how come the bank is broke? When all they're dealing with is your fiat, your energy, and how they work. Same way, because the corporate state, how's the corporate state work when all these people filing all these apostilles and giving them fiat? What they're doing, they're keeping their system running as long as they can, with a promise that will not be fulfilled. Not that the process itself is not structured, to so-called supposedly operate the way it is just will never be acknowledged. You know, it's just sort of like me dealing you a card, we never intended for you to win. And you're throwing the dice on the, you know, thing, on the roulette. And they got 2 magnets under there. Every once in a while, I let you win, keep you there. You, oh man, it's my last dollar, I'm going. Well, why don't you just try one more? You know, after all, you only got $1. Your car's going, you can walk that. And buses ain't running. So try $1, right? So they pulled the magnet and you went, oh, I got this. $35. Give me a drink. And some lunch and stuff. And then you happy, man. And then they let you win 2 more. 5, 10. Oh, dang, you got a bunch of chips, right? Oh, man, I'm on a roll. Give it all, right? With the magnet back. You walking. I mean, we keep falling for stuff. Not that the promise is not there. It's sort of like, how many losses do it take us to figure out that we're being played? That's my whole point. Everything but claiming the estate. They keep trying to claim the instruments. They won't claim the straw. They won't claim the birth certificate. They won't claim the marriage certificate. Not that you shouldn't understand how this thing works, because we already know how it works. They're all bodily. You ain't getting it. They're just more. They're built. It's like they're building time. You know, like somebody. They're losing. But they need the people's blind faith to keep this thing going. They're going to roll this thing as long as it can roll until it collapses. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So they're going to keep people running around. Well, what'd you do last year? Last year got apostille. I thought that was the cure. No, right now I'm catching the birth certificate. And as soon as everyone out, they're going to do something else. There's not too much more they can do because it's too close. But know that they will come up with something else. And all I say is this, and I've always said this, and I said this to a couple of Europeans and sometimes call them radio shows. I said this to a brother from England one time. I said, this is just before they started the Moorish TV in England. One of the brothers, I think it was Denmark. Not England. Anyway, one of the Europeans was calling me, right? And I was talking about, we were talking about the UCC ones. And they were talking about different processes that they're using. And I said, all right, let's just look at statistics, right? With all of these people and all these different sites and all these different organizations, I'm not arguing the foundation upon which the movement is made. We know the fraud. All this is fact. Let's talk strictly about process of claim, right? Name the people and show the evidence of the people that finally got a hold of this Sister Q account and have effectively been using it. Show the checks, the account numbers, and the movements of finances. And you won't. And yet, you have millions of people been doing this. How much fiat energy has the corporate states generated for people running around in circles trying to capture boogeyman? But I'm not saying that to dismiss it. I'm just saying that to be real. Meaning that if just in this room alone, if we've been doing UCC1 financial statements for 10 years, and no one has gotten their hands in the account yet, although we got piles and piles of papers of all these processes we didn't use, somebody needs to come up with how many you got? At least 10,000 you got from the accounts. Can you show it? The only thing that you can show that I've found so far is some people who have used the discharge principle as described in House Joint Resolution 192. And even then they restrict that. They make it difficult. However, because that's clearly there, you can hold them to it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And so I always say that. But again, when it comes, and this is again why I always tell people do trust. Put all your stuff in trust because everything is hypothecated. If you know everything is hypothecated, the first thing you do is build a trust. But people spend more time trying to chase that CUSIC number than they will do a trust. And this is the other problem that other people have with the UCCs, is that they look at the power of the information and would try to apply the information, never thinking that their status was dead. Again, look at the issue of when magistrates will say to them, you can't use the common law with the Constitution as a defense because you're not a party to it. Then understand this, and we're getting ready to close out and ask any questions that you choose to ask. The other issue is when the magistrates sometimes say to different people who are making claims that you can't use the Constitution as a defense because you're not a party to it, which means the common law argument. It is because the Constitution of the United States is a private property. The coup of 1871. The Constitution for the United States is the legitimate republic's constitution. And then you must, let's look at this again, and then consider. And you know logic, let's talk logic, right? And then we'll discuss this a little bit and close out, because we're over time. Let's look at logic. Now consider Europeans with the sovereignty groups, etc., when they were trying to use the common law, and then also the apostille and claiming the birth certificate. Because remember, when you're dealing in treaty or you're dealing in any controversy, you've got two parties. Plaintiff, defendant, right? Or claimant, respondent, right? All right, when you got treaty, right? Where's the treaty? We're talking North America. What's the treaty between? And who else? The United States is an appendage of England. It's a corporation entity, colony of England, occupying Morocco, which is America. Right? So, hold on for a minute. Deal with this for a second. So, if you're not a direct descendant of, when we went on the preamble, right? We got Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, right? Thomas Jefferson, ministers plenipotentiary under the authority of the Sultan of Morocco. Obama goes on in world TV and exposes that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law. Shows the Moorish flag there, big as day, pictures taken all around the world. So, if you're not Moor, can you be a creditor? I mean, use your common sense. Because everybody then, how do you preserve, like a mother and a child, like your mom, right? And for your children, you have a will, if you got an estate, right? For your benefits to go to your children, your posterity, right? Yes. With nations, it's treaties and constitutions that preserve the resources for their posterity. So that means you must be a member of the family. You can't be an heir if you're not American, right? So we're the Americans, from Chile to Alaska, the indigenous people. And the islands. Are the Europeans the Americans? No, they are not. Have they claimed to be? Yes, they claim to be, but are they? No, they are not. They are the colonists who've been occupying America under a treaty that they have long since violated. Now that their middle class is being dissolved, they want to start telling the truth and then claim sovereign right, but they can't be heirs. Not heirs, you can't be the beneficiary. Now you understand why the magistrate's telling them, you can't use the Constitution as a defense, you're not a party to it. And then other people in a colored status keep on trying to use the UCCs while claiming to be black. They're Christian property. They've got Moorish blood, yes, but they deny their mothers and fathers. Are they heritable? If your children deny you in law, can they be inheritable?
No.
Are they heritable? So they must honor their mothers and their fathers to be heritable. Is that correct? That's all over the world, isn't it? So if you deny your own bloodline, can you be heritable? You can be extinguished if you keep on causing problems. See what them camps are for? I think that happened in Germany with some other people that was German and Polish and everything, and start claiming a creed as an identity. And Hitler nationalized Germany, didn't he? Germany for German. Castro nationalized Isabella, Cuba, didn't he? Right? Cuba
Yes.
for Cubans, right?
Yes.
Told them, Europeans, y'all can go home. You can stop this bullshit that y'all been doing. Yet they trained him in Texas as a double agent. As soon as they set him in power and removed Batista, he nationalized, fooled their asses, didn't he? No, let's look at it. We're talking real politics, not emotions. So what these people think, they're going to keep on playing black because they got some UCC that they're going to claim. Do you understand? We're talking logic. Logic. The land is Morocco. The only reason the people don't know because they've been suffering under Reconstruction misinformation. And their so-called black leaders have been telling them about black diaspora. King Alfred, these people are bound to the continent. You see the dynamics? So when it really hits the fan, and it's hitting the fan, all claims now must be challenged because there's no more playtime. So at the same time, he's going to try to misdirect as many people as he can because he don't want that momentum. Because he's out of business, because all the stocks are dying. Meaning that any corporation or company or country that has any U.S. corporation T-bonds got toilet paper used in their treasury. Open up the safe. Say, damn. Damn. You think we can cash these in? I don't think so. Think someone will take them? No, I don't think so. And for real, this is really what's happening as we speak. And so this is, we're talking the real politics. What is really happening? You know, just like you hear people talk about the reset and all that stuff, right? How many of you know what the reset really is? If you really know what the reset actually is in its function, raise your hand and say it. Go ahead.
Bankruptcy.
No, because they've already been bankrupt 5 times over. That's not it.
What was the
The
question?
reset that they're talking, anybody, what's the reset?
No. I don't know, I'm trying to get the question, but I don't know.
All right, what's going on right now in world politics?
Gold.
This is affecting every nation on the planet.
The gold.
Internationally, we're in a process with world governments collectively going through a process that they have designated, at least in the public, as the reset or New World Order and a combination of the two. They call it a reset. Do you know what the reset is? What is the functional action of the reset?
Our state.
You're going to change monetary.
Don't guess. Do you know?
I think it's you're going to change
Go ahead.
monetary.
Say it again.
You want to change the monetary system from this fiat-based currency from reserve into
Old bag.
Look like bricks.
All right, let's back up. Now, you're on the right path, but this is where we need to be. This is where we need to be. We need to be specific. What's happening is the heirs of the estate have been remiss of their responsibility, i.e. being the Moors of North America, who have been maintaining the color code system set up by Carlos Linnaeus, the German, for Christian property under the Christian black codes, being so-called Negroes, blacks, colored, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, etc., who are going to be exterminated because their bloodline is Moor, but they've been claiming everything but who they are not. Europeans wants to kill them off before they wake up because all of the estate must be delivered to them. The way they have been getting over is by abrogating the Constitution in order to abrogate the treaty. And so when you look into congressional record, what do they admit to with the coup? To abrogate the gold clause. Article 1, Section 10. What is the reset? It's in line with what you're saying, but we must be specific. This is what's happening. China, India, Brazil, right? Russia, South Africa, and that's short, but it's actually over 182 nations, came together with the focus, look at this, to enforce Article 1, Section 10 of the American Constitution, to go back to the gold standard, to reverse the coup that took place in 1861 to 1871. That's the reset. That's specific. That's the competent answer. Although you was on the right path. Anything else is totally incompetent. That's what we cannot afford to be continuous. The lack of a specific understanding of what's going on, which means they got your back. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Now, logically, Asiatics here who don't know the history saying, man, Chinese coming and taking all the shit. Do you understand? They own all the ports on the West Coast and they shut it down just as last year and stuff like that. And the economy's falling apart. Do you understand why they own all the ports? Don't you know about the Manchurian gold? You know, our people don't know nothing about history and don't even know when they're being given a hand. This is the danger of people being ignorant of their own history. They don't know friend from enemy. But at the same time, the rest of the world is falling apart while we've been irresponsible. Meanwhile, every time this man starts a war, as soon as our people have a job 2 months, they go fight his wars for him, beat up everybody, because when we get mad, nobody beats us. So as soon as we get in the war is won as far as we're concerned. You understand? Give them all the mistreatment, then as soon as they start war, like Hitler said. What Hitler said to Churchill, he said, you get your stovepipes out the war, we'll kick your asses. No, that was his real statement that Hitler made. Because he knew that once they put their brothers in the war, they wasn't winning. That has been the history. Nobody has ever really defeated the Moors. We've defeated ourselves or given up.
Yes, yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Or divided, falling for the schism. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And everybody knows it but us. You put these people out of job 3 months, and they go in the army and go around and keep this man in power and come back and start some marching, praying nigger group. Again. On top of the other ones that don't work. Do you understand? Well, is it not true? Is it not true?
That's right.
And then wonder why the world don't like black people. But when they say black people, that means sellout. See, our people don't know that when the rest of the world say black people, they're talking about traitors and sellouts amongst the Moors. Do you understand? They will be referred to as Moranos and Moriscos. Those are sellouts, i.e. black and Negro people, which are outside the human family. Do you understand? And that's why they get all that mistreatment. They think it's something else. They think it's complexion, it's legal status. Do you understand? And then they don't know their own history. You know what I mean? And so they're dangerous to themselves and dangerous to the world. And because they don't know their history, it makes it worse. And then you can't tell them nothing because they think they know Jesus and you don't. And so they're judgmental, they're judging everybody, they're full of doo-doo. Babies are dying younger and younger on the street and they talk about how saved they are. Not only that, they're hypocrites. Self-righteous hypocrites. Go ahead, good brother. Speak loud so we can hear you.
Going back to what you were talking about, the flag. The flag in the state of Delaware, is more racist than flag in South Carolina. But South Carolina derived from almost look like the flag of England. You know, but the flag in the state of Delaware has a flag.
Let's cut through chase. This is what it's true. The Confederate flag is ours. Why are you wrinkling your eyebrows? Why are you wrinkling your eyebrows? No, but I'm just saying, with the act of charge, you're supposed to already know that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? They always do false flags because they know these people don't know their own history. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And they can test you. It's a false flag argument to divert you from real stuff that's happening.
And last fact, I'm from Capital Carolina.
And everybody marching and praying and pull down the flag. Hold on, that's their own shit. It really is. You'll see it all over the tombs in Egypt, in the Yucatan. The costume that the Ku Clan wears, that's ours too.
Mm-hmm.
Man, there's the devil, little nice now.
They said they stole the Aryan
It's the white brotherhood of Egypt.
Aryan Brotherhood, they said that was us.
Listen, you know, our people is out to lunch.
They said the Aryan Brotherhood was us.
Aryan, you know, like when you have when Constantine and his mother, when they made up the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, which is the official name of the version of Christianity as used by all Western countries or the European nations, right? The people are worshiping Constantine, lying and saying they're worshiping Jesus. Everybody knows it, but the dummies who are the believers that pay the bills. No, let's be real, right? So these people are funding their own enslavement, marching and praying all over the place, swear they know Jesusness. I'm serious. And the world laughing, then they get so, you know, nobody want to diss the black man. He's saying stuff like, "Hey, the hell's in North America?" That's your damn home. You went out to lunch. That is adopted from Egypt, from Egypt. Those are constellations. That's just stuff. You know, ignorance is more than dangerous. And as long as these people are ignorant, they can be destroyed. And if the ignorance remained or remains, they will be destroyed. They will be destroyed for lack of knowledge. And if they reject knowledge, they will be destroyed. And what Europe is doing, what Europeans plan, is to kill them off before they wake up, because they know he knows his reign is over. And all those interregnums are over. This is why it is said those who will be saved will be a handful, or what you call a narrow path. People ask for the truth. When they get it, they run to their death. Now, logically, if you watch Europeans, just like Zuckerberg's, that's what, Rothschild's grandson?
No, it's Rockefeller's grandson.
Who? Rockefeller's grandson? All right, that's Rockefeller's grandson. When Zuckerberg's partner, when Facebook went IPO a few years back, did you see them run around talking about getting a UCC1 financial statement? What did they do? They announced their U.S. citizenship, went to Switzerland, nationalized, and the IRS didn't take all his coins. And then you look at a lot of so-called wealthy Europeans, just type in a computer, wealthy so-called white Americans that take on that title, Naturalization Act, denounce their U.S. citizenship, and this is why they've been interrupting that now, because they've lost so many, and they're losing control of the finance along with it. This is aside from the fact that nations are dumping their T-bonds and they're building infrastructure with them because they're listed as pristine. So while they got them, they're building infrastructure across Africa and Asia. This is why the U.S. corporations over there doing all this bombing, trying to stop the pipelines and all this communications. They killed Gaddafi to steal the gold and to stop the satellite. They blew the satellite up because he was doing a satellite for Africa, an African nation, so they wouldn't have to depend on Google and all this other stuff. They was disconnecting from this European. Meanwhile, our people are still trying to be a part of the beast while complaining about them. And then their leader guys keep calling them black people, which makes them property. While in secret, they got nationality cards. You understand? That's how one brother who left to get some finance from Gaddafi years ago had to come through Empress goes to Leo, got a nationality card.
It's the fair.
Yeah. You know it, and everybody else knows it too. But they don't tell them believers that.
So is that why
They're
they
all trash about Malcolm.
is that why they're locking up all these rappers who are meeting with them
Well,
after their private meetings?
I would look at it as from a double perspective. I look at it from the perspective, again, they want to, by political necessity, by what they call the rule of necessity, stop the momentum. Because in secret, he's fooling someone that they're Moors, just like Khalid did before they murdered him. And just like when he came to that building in Walnut, remember he came years ago to that building on Walnut Street, right behind the post office, that next. How many familiar with me came to that building in Philly? They had that meeting, it might have been about 10 years ago, at 30th and Walnut. Well, anyway, when he came to that building, when he had that meeting there, he slipped up and told the people they were Moors. Farrakhan did. You understand? They all know, but the point of it is that this is the key. Look at it from not just an informational basis. Look at it from a knowledge basis of how estate and trust works. Whenever you say trust, you're talking estate. Are we clear?
Yes.
All right. What is the rule? Universal rule in estate and trust law. When the heirs or beneficiaries prove competent or of intelligent and competent age, not just physical age, competent age, that the estate must be delivered.
Yes. Can you say that again, please?
The estate must be delivered to the heirs when they show competence or when they're mature. Now, in law, female 16, male 21. This is why the Europeans created the category of minority, which really means minor. And then paid off the marching, praying black leader guys to call their people of color and minority, like it's some Afrocentricity, which actually makes them non-descendable, which is what the function is. So you got to look at how things function. You know, this is again why people need law books and they need to know etymology. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they know these people can't read, because they've trained them like animals, and they swear they're spiritual. They full of shit. Yeah, they really. And they can't compete. And they start saying stuff like they're being deep. The only deep there is in shit. No, I'm serious. But, you know, arrogance, it makes it difficult for people to look at reality when they're arrogant and when they really think they know stuff. No, well, you bring a flash drive. Kind of late. You bring a flash